Now it's time to look ahead to tomorrow's budget, and we're asking, what would you do if you were Chancellor? And today, we are asking the biggie, would you U-turn on winter fuel payments if you were Rachel Reeves? Campaigners have delivered more than 500,000 signatures opposing the move to Downing Street, urging the government to take this final opportunity to restore the payments to 10 million pensioners before the budget. Now, the big red box is in your hand now. I'm passing it over. 0207 862 2222 is the number to tell us what you would do. Would you do a U-turn? I'm going to go to Cristo first. What do you think?
I absolutely would do a U-turn. They won't, of course, because this is an ideological battle that they are faring at the moment against pensioners, because they were the demographic that were least likely to vote Labour. So they are the ones that I think Labour don't care about the most. Over 60, over 65s, that was the smallest vote share that Labour got in the last election. So of course they don't mind. They are saving, some people saying like £1.4 billion, and they are saying it's because of this massive black hole in the finances that apparently I had no idea was there beforehand. Yet what they could have done very easily was still given a pay rise to train drivers, still given a pay rise to junior doctors, but actually not so much that £1.5 billion could have still been earmarked for pensioners. Again, they made a decision, coincidentally, to give that money to the unions who are more likely to vote Labour and to cut the money from the pensioners who aren't. So I would absolutely, I think this is just such a dreadful policy. Older people who are probably unlikely to be able to take any kind of other work to supplement their income, who many of whom are in poverty, 10 million are going to be affected by this. I just think it's such a nasty move and an unnecessary one in the context of how much money they'll save.
Do you think this was a cynical move to attack a generation, a group of people that just don't tend to vote Labour?
I think that's a very cynical attitude to take. I don't think it was that. I am one of the 10 million. I have been having the winter fuel payment for many years now, £200, and I'm not now going to get that. I'm very lucky that I can afford to pay my bills, and I don't need that. It was very nice to have. And it's not that I didn't need it. I'd spent it all on a truckload of licorice, or whatever.
Well, we'll get on to that. We know it will be a truckload of licorice, yes.
Yeah, but the thing is, and I'd just like to say to Cristo that, the Conservative Party, the reason this is all having to be done, all these terrible decisions, is because of what the Conservative Party have done. They drove this country into the ground for 14 years. And the reason that the junior doctors need to be paid, because the Conservatives didn't actually ever deal with any of the strikes. They just kicked it down the road so that it go further and further. They wouldn't have to pay out and make it someone else's problem, and also trying to demonise ordinary working people. Well, let's not discuss
let's not do that
who
definition.
they are. Let's not. But to demonise people and say, oh, union, they're all money grabbing, work shy, with horns. They are people like you and me. They're normal people. So having said all of that, the whole point of this is that you're right. They're not going to go back on it because it's ideological. But the thing is, it is quite right that it's means tested, because I can't tell you how many debates I've had in this studio about it's unfair for wealthy pensioners to get the triple lock, to get a rise. We've had a massive triple lock rise this year, and there's going to be a massive triple lock rise in April.
But there's also been a tax freeze, so there's those that are getting a very small private pension are now being
and higher energy bills and higher energy bills.
I was going to say,
okay,
and I don't know how I'm no economist at all. My God, far from it. But my idea would be to raise the threshold, which is 12,570, raise that by the £200. So whether that's cheaper or more expensive to do that, that's what I would do.
Yeah. There's lots of people that actually, they agree in principle with not giving the most wealthy pensioners these winter fuel payments, but the threshold is something where a lot of people disagree. Shirley from Bristol, how do you feel about this? Would you, if you were Chancellor, do a U-turn?
Yes, I would, definitely.
Tell us why.
Well, I'm a pensioner myself. I lost my husband 6 months ago, which meant basically I've lost half of my income.
Oh.
And most of my friends are pensioners. They're not well off. They've worked all their lives, and a lot of them will find it hard to find that extra money that they're not going to get for the heating bill. What I can't understand is people like Martin Lewis have said about basing it on the actual tax band, your council tax band. But people like me, I've lived in my house for 38 years. I haven't got any money in the bank, but my house is worth a lot more than it was. So why should I not get the winter fuel payment just because I might be in a higher tax band? What I think he should do, if they're going to stop people having it, is why don't they stop people on 40% and upwards who pay tax from having the winter fuel payment?
Okay, you've lost me a bit on the detail there, but I'm sure there's something in that, Shirley. I'm going to try and take it from the Labour Party's perspective here. When they have said that the broadest shoulders are going to have to carry the biggest weight. They're not going to be taxing working people. So with that in mind, and looking at the statistics of the finances across the generation, pensioners do hold some of the most wealth. They are certainly not the hardest up when it comes to money, 30% of which are living in households worth more than $1 million, which is staggering. 17% do live in poverty, but they have encouraged the 800,000 people who qualify for pension credits who aren't accessing that to access it in order to get the winter fuel payments. So there is an attempt there to try and protect the most vulnerable, is there not?
No, there's not, because the most vulnerable people, it's been said that some people applying for a tax credit now, they won't get it for about 10 weeks. Well, what good's that in the winter? And then people say we're going to get more money in April, but that's not helping during the winter.
That's a really interesting point you make. And the 10 weeks is just the process that it takes. That's how long it takes once you apply for the pension credit.
And there's an awful lot of older people that really, the cold for them is the worst thing ever.
And as you get older, you do feel the cold more, Shirley. Thank you very much
definitely.
for your call. Brenda from Hertfordshire, what's your view on this? Should the government U-turn?
Absolutely. I'm absolutely disgusted with what the Labour Party... As I say, I have been a Labour Party member all my life. I've even walked the streets for them, and they've definitely shot themselves in the foot by doing this to us pensioners. I feel passionately about it.
Brenda, I can hear it in your voice. Do you agree with Cristo here that it's sort of a cynical political move, a kind of getting pensioners back for not voting Labour generally? Yeah,
but I'm one of them that's loyally voted for them. Oh. And I live in a constituency that's I'm 82, and this is the first time in Harpenden, in Hertfordshire, that we have had Liberal, because this has been blue, and I'm most over the moon that we've got the Tories out. But what the Labour are absolute disgrace at the moment.
Okay, I can hear your fury at Labour. But what about the defence that 30% of pensioners are living in households worth more than $1 million? That's quite staggering. That means 30% of pensioners do not need that winter fuel payment. And shouldn't there be some sort of distinguishment between the most vulnerable pensioners and those that really can pay it themselves?
Yeah, but as I say, my husband's got a small pension, and we're penalised because of that.
You've been dragged into the
I was stupid enough. I never paid the full stamp, and I wanted the money in my purse, right. With the kids growing up, and that was my fault. But I am absolutely penalised with the fact that I can't get this allowance, and I prefer to be hungry to be cold.
Than cold. Brenda, I mean, that is the worry, that there'll be a lot of people having to make that choice. Thank you very much for your really passionate call there. Callum from Edinburgh, how do you feel about this very controversial policy that Labour have brought in or taken away?
I think they're quite right to do what they're going to do, or they've started, and I hope they don't do a U-turn on the winter fuel. I mean, it's £150 if you're a single person, right? Now, I got it, but I immediately gave it to Gaza to help Palestinians.
Okay, so you gave it to charity then, Callum, which is
Yes.
very honourable of you, because presumably you don't need it. You can pay for your heating fine yourself.
Even though it's a lot, but we are the most generous country in the world to our population. You look at other countries, Canada, US, many of them, we have it so good, and this is a country full of complaining rich
But
pensioners.
Hold on, Callum. There are definitely wealthy pensioners out there. There is no doubt about that. But there are also incredibly vulnerable pensioners. And actually, as a society, the older generations claim less on the state. It's a mentality thing. They will be less likely to claim even when they are completely due it. Pension credit being one of these things. We've got 880,000 pensioners at the moment due their pension credit that haven't claimed it. They need to be protected, surely.
No. Hold on. It's a one-off payment, right, that started, I don't know when.
1996, I think.
There you go. Right. Prior to that, you never got it, but people still survived. Now, the one-off is 150 for one person. Please let me speak. The one-off might cover, I don't know, might not even cover 1 month's electricity bill for heating. It's not going to cover them for the whole of winter. I just think, no. I see a lot of pensioners who are out and about getting their nails done, and making out that they're not.
Okay, Callum, thank you very much for your call. Anthony from London, what's your view on this?
Hello?
Anthony, hi.
Oh, hello.
Hi there.
Look, all right, first of all, I'm 84. I'm on the margin, if you like. I certainly wouldn't U-turn. No, I think it's perfectly sensible.
It's sensible to say that the wealthy pensioners don't need it.
Look, sorry, I'd like £300. Of course I would. Who wouldn't? But no, there's people more deserving than I am. It's not I've got broad shoulders. Don't think that for a minute. No, but I provided myself as best I could. So, no, carry on.
Anthony, and that's fantastic that you're in a situation where, even though it will be tough, you'll be able to still eat and heat your home. But you appreciate that there will be many pensioners out there that are going to really struggle this winter without that payment.
I won't struggle. I've worked my life to make sure I didn't.
No, not.
So what I'm saying, yes, but first I was lucky. I was never born. I am working class, completely and utterly. I hate the word, but it's a fact. Yeah, and I mean, I provided myself because I saw it coming.
All right, Anthony, which is great. You'll be absolutely fine. I suppose what we're talking about here is the people that are really struggling, that will struggle this winter. Frank from Hertfordshire, what's your view?
That's me, Mr. Jakeman. Yes, my only on this is that the government should have cut it across the board. Everyone, 150, not 300, and I think everyone would have been satisfied. Yeah.
Okay, but Frank, that might be absolutely true. So they still gave it to the pensioners, but they just halved it, 150.
Yeah.
But then you've still got people that can afford it, living in £1 million households, getting £150 when the economy is in dire straits.
Well, yeah, I can understand that, but to slice it off altogether, they've just alienated themselves, and why do that? I mean, at one time we used to just get the 100, then they jumped it up to 300. So if everyone got 150, then I'm sure that there wouldn't have been this hue and cry over it.
Hue and cry. Do you think that's true, Nina?
I think it's the perception of that they're attacking pensions. That's the key to it. The fact that they're letting people down. But the point being that Keir Starmer is not going to go back on his word. He is a ruthless man. I think we make the mistake of thinking because he's kind of wooden and lacking in charisma that he's weak. The fact that he managed to turn the Labour Party round from being completely destroyed in the December 2019 election with Jeremy Corbyn, 4 years later to defeat the left-hand side of the party and become elected with a massive majority.
OK, he may not want to U-turn because he's already seen a sort of Mr. U-turn, but isn't there a middle ground, a compromise here, as you were saying, just adjusting where the margins are, just adjusting, rather than making it pension credits, making it some other threshold of accessing it?
I mean, we don't know what Rachel Reeves is going to do tomorrow, and she may well do that. We don't know, but I would personally like to see that threshold up by 200.
The problem is, I'm sorry to say, it's ideological, not just against pensioners, but this government is, I think, it's ideological against anyone who is perhaps in the middle that's done better. And it's so short-sighted because the very people that they claim they want to help will be the ones that suffer. You want to send your kids to private school and you're struggling to do that. The super wealthy won't care. It'll be the poorest children in state schools that'll suffer. You've got a little bit of wealth in your house, have you? You're a pensioner. Oh, well, sorry, we're going to take away that winter fuel credit because you've done okay for yourself.
There's an element of taxing aspiration.
I don't think it is at all. You blame rather the last 14 years. Blame Liz Truss. Blame the people who were not in politics.
They've just
to help the people.
20 billion giving pay rises out
to fill their own pockets.
20 billion on pay rises.
I feel
but they're allowed. You've got to get the NHS back on its feet.
Why not give 19 billion in pay rises and keep a billion for the pensioners?
When it comes to winter fuel payments, we could talk about it all day, and you could call us all day. We know that the phone lines just light up, but we're going to have to draw this to the close.